Hello.
Hello, hello. Hi,
Hi
everyone.
everyone. Welcome back to Chewed Gum. It's glad. I'm glad to be back.
It's glad. I'm glad. We're all glad.
It's glad everyone's glad and we can all be glad together because I'm back and you had to do the show without me. How did it go?
It was good. It was a fun show. Stacey and I had a good time. She's great.
That's good. I'm glad everything went nice and smooth. I have to go and watch some of like the fights that you were having. Did you have any man versus bear?
Uh, I don't think we had any man versus bear. We had two people who were like I was telling you in the pre-show who were like, "Oh, most men in this job field or most people in this job field are men. So if all the men disappeared, society would crumble because you wouldn't have men to do construction." And it was yeah, embarrassing attempts to defend the patriarchy,
Yeah.
but we'll see. I told some of them they had like not really fully thought out points to like think about it and call back. So we'll see if
Yeah.
we get those people back again this week.
Okay. I put the clip of our man versus bear stuff on TikTok and on Instagram, and I had to take it down from Instagram because the comments were getting so bad that I was like, "This
Oh
is
my
not. I
god.
can't do this anymore." They were just like, I mean, calling us idiots. Like it was like not even. It was
Mhm.
not productive conversation. And after a while, I was like, I every time I open my Instagram, which unfortunately is a large part of my job, I would see those
Right.
comments, and I was like, "This is like very upsetting. You guys are all weird and crazy." And so I archived it for now. Maybe I'll unarchive it again in the future. But I was like, I need a break from this. You guys are spicy. And then in the
Yeah.
comments, I said to several people, I like that were calling us idiots, obviously. I said, well, you can call and talk to us about it and explain your point. Like, we're live every Tuesday. And they were like, no, fuck that. Why would I do that? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, then what are we talking about?
Yeah. No, that's such a notorious thing. I for as long like obviously we've been doing these call-in shows for like 3 years or so. At least I have.
Mhm.
And I can't tell you how many times I've had that happen where somebody's been calling me stupid or something bigoted on social media and I'll be like, "Well, hey, if you want to like say it to my face or prove how stupid I am,
Mhm.
there's literally a platform where hundreds watch
Can
and
literally do
thousands
it.
over the course of a week. You can make me look so
Mhm.
dumb. Show up and prove it." They never do.
Yeah.
So, you
And they
know,
never do.
they're so big
That's
and strong
crazy.
from behind the keyboard.
Exactly. Well, anyways, um, wait, did I freeze?
Yep, I did just freeze. Hold
Am
on,
I
let me
frozen?
see. I can still hear
What just
you.
happened?
Oh, sounds like you might not be able to hear me.
Did I freeze? I don't know if
Did
Arden can.
I can hear you? Oh, the call just disconnected. Okay. Well, while Alyssa reconnects, let's get a refresh in there. Hopefully, I will maybe read off our announcements, our shows for the week, and then we'll get. Oh, there you are. Okay, cool.
That was so
Uh,
weird. Sorry.
I could hear you. We could hear you being like, "Can you hear me?" and all that stuff. But yeah, you can hear us. Um,
Sorry.
no, no worries. Uh,
Um,
yeah,
were you gonna do shows for the week?
yeah. I was gonna fill up time while we let you refresh.
Yes.
Let's see. What do we have coming up this week? Tomorrow is actually going to be myself and Matt on the Hang Up. We're doing like a little Pride episode of the Hang Up. Because Matt's gay, homie.
So
On
fun.
Thursday, we've got Luxander and Dr. Ben on Takis. Next Sunday, it's Jimmy and Erica gets a Gibbon, although Jimmy might swap out. We'll see how that goes.
Mm.
For the Sunday show, I think 7 p.m. after dark show will be Paula Gia and somebody who has not been determined. Uh, Shannon Q just got me her guests for next Monday, but we haven't contacted them yet because they only go through email. Because apparently it is 2001. So sorry to the guests. I'm sure you're lovely and brilliant, but yeah, it's frustrating when people only want to contact through email. But if you want to see any of those shows, definitely go find them, hit the bell so you get notified when those shows go live. But yeah, is that all? Did you have anything you wanted to add or plug while we're in the early part of the show?
Mm, not really, except if you haven't already said, you can give us a call at 720. I literally forgot how to say zero. 720-619-2288. There are some lines open, so give us a call and you can be pulled onto the show and we'll chat with you. We'll talk it all through. Can't wait to hear what we talk about today.
Hell yeah. We do have
Um,
a caller on the line. Oh, did you
do
want to?
we? Oh wait, before that, should we talk about super chats?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay,
Uh,
so you can do a super chat in the YouTube live chat, and if you do a super chat of $5 or more, we will read them at the end of the show too. So if there's anything that you maybe like want to talk about, but you don't want to call in, and you just want to like add in your 2 cents, and we'll read it at the end. Super chat is a great way to do that, and it also is a great way to also like this. I'm a hot mess express today, guys, and it also is a great way to support the show.
cool. Yes, definitely do that. Give us your super chat monies. Dig deep, people. Fill our pockets with your pockets, please. Uh,
Oh my god.
shameless begging. Okay. You want to take this first caller? Yeah.
Yes, let's do it.
All right.
Do you want me to pull them in, or are you going to pull them in?
I can do it. If you're yeah, okay. We've got Jacob in California. Pronouns are he, him. He's an atheist, wants to talk about coming out to religious parents with regard to atheism. So Jacob, you're live. Tell us in your words, what's going
Hello.
on?
Hey, y'all. First time calling in. Can I just say I love this whole series so much, especially the chill kind of flavor
Yay.
and vibe on chewed gum.
Good.
But
I'm
yeah,
so
thanks for
glad.
having me.
Yeah,
Um,
thanks for
for
calling.
context, Alyssa, I was calling because I watched some video actually with you recently. It was you and Gutsy Gibbon talking to some guy named Bill from Illinois about coming out to his wife as an
Mm,
atheist, and it inspired
yeah.
me to to talk about coming out to my parents as atheists, as an atheist. So I guess context. My parents are deeply religious. I'm gay, and they were praying for my wife and kids before I was born. So that was kind of a bit
Mm,
of a snafu for them. Like, it's their hobby. I have multiple pastor uncles. My dad doesn't
yeah.
walk out of the house without like a I love Jesus style shirt. So if that gives you kind of a sense of where they're at.
Oh boy.
Um, yeah. And I think part of the struggle is like I want to be open and honest with my parents because we do a lot of things like family dinners and such, but it feels kind of weird, like I'm hiding a big part of myself.
Mm,
And so for my birthday, for example, I created this like Jeopardy style game where I had to then like pick a topic that like my views on love or my career goals or my views on religion, told them a quick story and then asked them like a listening comprehension question because I basically was trying to get them to opt in into asking me about what my views on religion were. And out of the
mm,
9 topics, the only one that they didn't choose was religion.
mm.
So it seems like it's kind of a rough situation. And at the end, my parents were like, when you mentioned we wanted to talk to you, we were so worried it was going to be something painful, but this was so fun.
Mm.
Which great, but they didn't talk about the thing that was maybe going to be painful. So I guess
Right.
to get more specific to the other question, in your conversation with Bill in Illinois, you mentioned like something along the lines of like, I want to have a conversation with you with the intention of telling you about something very important to me because you're really important to me. Again, trying to be like, I don't want to like, convert you or anything, but I want to be my authentic self. But do
Mm.
you think that works similarly with parents who are deeply devout in their mid to late 60s and have already expressed that they find the topic kind of painful? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Well, it's tough because part of me is also thinking like, how necessary is it for you to have that conversation with them? Like, is the juice worth the squeeze? Like I don't know if do they talk to you about religion, and like does it come up in conversation where you're like, I'm uncomfortable and I need to draw a boundary, or is it something where you are just kind of like, I want to share this with you because I care about you and we're so close in every other way?
Good question. Both. It got to the point where my dad was regularly just actually today, my mom sent me a Bible verse from Proverbs, something or other. And my father is often inviting me to the men's Bible study and also sending me the
Mm,
sermons every Sunday. So I've
mm,
already built kind of some boundaries with them, saying like I won't go to church with you every Sunday, but I'll go on like special holidays. But even then, the text messages and the sermons and those things are also just kind of becoming more and more frequent. And so we're getting to a place where,
yeah,
like, as I'm getting more and more solid in my deconstruction at this point, I'm like, all right, how are we going to vision? Because I'm in my 30s now. Like, we got to figure this stuff out.
yeah. I think because when if you're sharing it with them and you don't have like any actions for them to necessarily take, then excuse me, I think it might be a conversation that might feel like you're almost like antagonizing, or like not antagonizing, but you're starting a conversation with like no end goal there. But if the end goal is like, I don't really want you guys to talk about this stuff with me anymore, and it's just not something that's a priority and not something that I'm comfortable with, then that's a fair ask. So I think like having the conversation with them from the space of like, you guys, I can respect whatever you want to believe, but if I'm being perfectly honest with myself and what I've discovered as time has gone on, I'm not someone who believes in any of this, and I don't want to engage with it anymore. And so I'd love to keep everything else about our relationship the same because I love and respect you guys, but I just don't think that's going to be a part of my life moving forward. And I think if you're drawing a boundary with some of their actions, it'll be easier maybe for them, because otherwise if you're having to sit down with them and you're like, I'm atheist and I want you to know that because it's important to me that you know, it's possible that they'll sort of feel like you're trying to like rile them up in some way and antagonize them, which doesn't seem like that's the goal. So I think if you're, like I said, if you're doing it with actions in mind, it's kind of like anytime people are having conversations with a partner even, and it's about relationships, and they're saying like, I don't feel cared for by you. And that person might need like actual actions to be like, okay, well, what are some things that I can do on a daily basis that will make you feel cared for? If you can't give those examples, it's really hard. Like, how do you measure success? How do you like measure that respect is being exchanged and that those things are being changed over time if you don't have anything to measure it up against? So I think giving them like boundaries in action will help make it have like a little bit more purpose for them. Arden, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I think kind of building off of that, something my therapist has given to me as a tool a lot when I've been going into like some of these tougher conversations has been like, what is your goal, as something to think about? And so I'm kind of curious, Jacob, like if you have a goal in mind, like, are you trying to get to a future where, you're just as close as you are now, but maybe those boundaries are there and you don't talk about that? Or maybe are you like, yeah, so like just kind of like let us in on what you are trying to get out of having this conversation.
Yeah, good question. First off, I think it would be great. I think having them not having the conversation feels unrealistic, frankly, because it's so central to their day-to-day lives. Their like whole personality is built around Christianity, frankly. So being realistic, I don't know if that's realistic, but I do think one of my goals would probably just be like, if you bring this up or if you bring me into these spaces, be open to my authentic thoughts and feelings. Because I think in the past, I felt like I couldn't be authentic with my feedback if the pastor's something wildly out of left field. I have to just kind of bite my tongue because like my goal is to just be there and be respectful of my parents and their church. And I think that's been really frustrating, especially as a grown man, trying to be like, okay, I can't voice my opinion on these matters when I'm in this space kind of as a favor to y'all. So I think if I were to state my goals, it'd be like, cool, if we're going to have these conversations, then like one, giving them an authentic understanding of like where I'm coming from. And then two, if you want to continue to have me in these spaces, let me continue to voice those authentic feelings rather than just having to just silence myself.
So can I ask, Jacob, like just hypothetically, if you get into the situation and they're like, well, that's going to be really hard for us because, we think that, the only way that you can get into heaven is by a relationship with Jesus. And if you're turning your back on that, then we're afraid you're going to hell, yada, yada. You can go down the whole line.
Yep.
Like, are you prepared to like have that conversation about boundaries? Because I think, it sounds like you might be putting them in a situation where you're also asking kind of like you're the one in the relationship in this situation who is changing on them, right? Like they're staying exactly how they are and you're revealing information to them. It doesn't mean you've done anything wrong or you're doing anything to them, but you're the one changing from their perspective. So I think, I would hope you're going into this like being prepared to have like a tough conversation about boundaries and like for what may come of that, because it's entirely possible that they're like not willing to, in their eyes, sacrifice your eternal salvation for making you comfortable on like a church outing or something.
I also wonder too if, because you talked about giving them feedback on some of the things that they're sharing with you. And one of the things that I think might be helpful is to, before you give feedback, um, ask them if they are open to feedback, and like doing that, having that be like a practice, because otherwise it might be a situation where like these people are, like Arden said, doing what they've always done and been, in whatever thought process with their religion that is, supportive to them in any way, which, we each can decide how we want to go about that type of thing. We all have free will there. And so you don't want to like, build a relationship around constantly challenging them. I think if you ask them to be even more clear, like you can't build a relationship like that if you're constantly challenging each other, especially when their goal is not to challenge you. Like their goal is to just experience their religion the way that they always have. I think what would be maybe easier is if you give those boundaries of like, if they're sharing things with you, you are going to want to give feedback. If they're directly sharing things with you, you would prefer that they don't share things with you like that, because it makes you uncomfortable. And so then if they cross that boundary, then that's a situation where you're like, okay, I'm going to give you feedback because you're disrespecting a boundary that I clearly set, versus like my parents are also religious, and I've had this conversation with them before too, where like if I don't, whatever they do on their, Sundays is just not my business. And I also, they don't ask me to go to church with them anymore. And that is like, and they don't ask me to like sit and watch church related things with them anymore. And so that's like an agreement that we've had. But in the times where my parents have shared things with me that are religious, those are moments where I'm like, can I give you feedback on this? Because I didn't want to watch this to begin with. And now I have to deal with like the negative emotions and being activated over something that I didn't want to experience. And you wanted me to experience this. And now I need to tell you how I feel. Right. But you had a reaction to me saying that they would have me like watch things. So I'm curious what that was about. My parents would have me watch like parts of The Chosen and like really heavily insist that it's like a really well-made show. And I'm like, and Harry Potter movies are also good. I don't believe in the Church of Harry Potter though. So it doesn't convert me in any way.
Right. Well, that makes a lot of sense. And I think making those boundaries really clear is important. And Arden, to your point, like it's hard because, in their minds, in the minds of all theists, I would imagine, the stakes are so high. Your eternal soul, your son's eternal soul is on the line. And I find that really, I've been trying to lead with like empathy and patience as they get used to it. Because they got used to me coming out as gay, which is a whole ordeal. So like this is just yet another thing that they have to deal with in their late 60s. And it challenges a lot of their worldview. And so I do hear what you're saying. Alyssa, I think the approach that you just shared is kind of where I would love to get to. Like, cool, if you're going to put me in this position, then like, let's at least have an open and honest discussion about it afterwards. So you know where I'm coming from, but it's a good point. Thank you.
I think, Jacob, if your parents have like, they're coming from this really strong evangelical background and they were able to, I'm not going to make any presumptions about how exactly supportive they are with you as a gay person, but like, if they were able to kind of like cope with that and adapt, I imagine that this is also something that they will probably be able to cope and adapt with. I think usually if people can handle one change like that, it seems clear to me that their love for you is going to be trumping, anything else that's kind of in their life. So definitely lean on that. But I think everything we've said so far is kind of, that's just supposed to be like words of encouragement, because I think everything else is pretty good as far as like, I think just boundary setting is going to be really important, and like Alyssa said, I don't really need to echo it again, but I will, because I like to hear myself talk about just like, maybe you don't need to have that conversation every time. Or what'd you say? Something about squeezing, getting juice? I don't know.
Is the juice worth the squeeze?
Is the juice worth the squeeze? I've never heard that iconic saying.
Me neither.
I think, that's a worthy consideration. I don't think I understand the urge to fight. Believe me, I am always like, as soon as I hear that shit, I am like primed from being on these shows. Like, I want to go, but it's not worth it most of the time. Most of the time, I just have to be like, don't say anything. Don't say anything. I love my mom, and that's what matters here.
Yeah.
No, that's really helpful. Thank you both. Was there anything else, or can I mention two other really, really quick things?
Go for it.
Sure.
One, happy Pride, everybody.
Yes.
And two, and then two, just reminder, don't apologize to him. That's all. Thank you so much for listening
Don't
to me and
apologize
answering my question.
Thank
Thank
you,
you so much, Jacob.
Have a good one.
You too.
You too. We got to get Don't Apologize to Him merch.
Yes, I'm working on it. I've been on a merch designing roll over the last week. So, did we close out the whole show? Oh, shit. Hold on.
Did we?
Yep.
Ready to connect. Click connect to show now. You are connected.
Let me mute this so that way you guys don't have to hear the robotic voice.
Whoa.
Luckily, the caller stayed connected. So,
that's weird.
I think we probably both dropped the caller is what happened. And
oh, shoot. Okay.
Somehow something caused that. Not really sure.
Okay.
No worries though. All right, who do you think out of Danny and Carissa?
I would like to talk to Danny.
Okay. All right. Let's bring on Danny in Georgia. Pronouns are he, him, is a theist. Has some thoughts about women with multiple sexual partners. So, Danny, you are live on the line. What's going on? Oh, I'm so sorry. It's muted because we were dealing with that thing. Now you're live, Danny. Go ahead. Are you there?
Hello?
There we go. Awesome. Hi, Danny.
Hello.
Go ahead. You're live.
Oh, Danny?
If you're on a web caller, Danny, and you're using your phone, you have to be aware of when your phone goes to sleep because that mutes the audio. So sometimes it's helpful to hold it out a little bit. So every time you see it go dark, you can just tap it. Cool. We hear you now. Okay. Go ahead. Every time you send it to him, it goes quiet. Oh, that's frustrating. All right, Danny, we're going to put you back in the queue and we'll maybe take you in a minute after the next caller. Sorry about that. Definitely keep looking at your phone to try to be aware of when that's happening. So hopefully we can get around that. We can talk to Krista though. So Krista, pronouns are she, her in the UK. Krista, you are live. What's going on?
Not much. How are you guys doing?
Great.
Good.
I think I called for like a discussion topic or more of an event just because it happens all the time, but a specific incident recently is just very frustrating. And that specifically in my line of work, it's anecdotal. I'm a female coach of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And I get seen as aggressive or emotional while my male counterparts are, just dominating or authoritative is what I get a lot. Like they have an authoritative tone while I have an aggressive tone. And I let go of it a lot. The jiu-jitsu world is made by men for men, and I just take a lot on the chin and move on. But recently, I had a student's father yell at me in a classroom full of my own students and then threaten me. And like my response, I think I say pretty level-headed, but I did step on that mat and was like, sure, buddy, come on. To which he got real quiet and left soon after with his son. And I was told that was a very emotional, aggressive response by me. And I'm like, you're right, I probably didn't handle it well, but he did kind of challenge me in front of all my students. And then didn't like it when I accepted his challenge. And again, I let it go. I ate crow. Like, yes, to my professor, I should have handled myself better. Only for 3 days later, a former student showed up during one of my professor's classes And they got into it and were yelling at each other. And it was all like, like the former student was in the wrong. He shouldn't have shown up. It was disrespectful. But I'm sitting here like, wait, what about you? Where was you managing your emotions? Like, why was mine an emotional outburst and me losing control? And yours was justified because he was disrespectful. It's very frustrating.
Yeah, that sounds so frustrating. And there's like, there's double standards in like all of women's behavior. It's like, even, I think it all stems from people wanting women to be agreeable. So like, even like there's a lot of history around the way that like women's sexuality is treated too, where women are prosecuted in one way or another for having multiple partners or for like being perceived as sexual beings, but men are like the man if they're able to do all of those types of things. And it's just all of these double standards that just keep women in like under the thumb of this like patriarchal system. And yeah, and that's so frustrating, especially because we've had so many of these conversations, especially recently, about how women are so emotional, and that's the reason why we can't, you know, we can't like have important jobs or whatever, because we're so emotional. And like this is sort of like a silly analogy now because people use it all the time, but like I've never seen a woman punch a hole through a wall because of their sports team lost. And that feels like a really emotional thing to do. And it's just like, you know, it's just constantly being told that we have to be like smaller, fill up less space and quieter and more agreeable and more feminine and softer and all these things. And it just so plays into that. It's so frustrating. Is there anyone that you can talk to, like, who you can bring up this double standard to and just be like, hello, this didn't make any sense, even if it's just to get like the validation of maybe someone else in your workplace?
Unfortunately, no. Like, it's a small academy, and the person holding the double standard is the owner and professor. So, and I'm not to the point yet or in the financial area where I can go out and make, you know, my dream academy where everyone's welcomed and maybe there's not these standards. So I just try to do my best to survive in the environment I'm in and try to make space. Like, my goals are specifically to make space for women in this sport, which is not easy. So I have to put up a lot just to sort of create that environment so I can bring more women into the sport that I love. So it's frustrating. I do have an awesome partner who is also a coach alongside with me. We're two of the highest ranking coaches in the academy. So he has my back, thankfully, and like we have each other. But like just talking to someone else, because I can see him not understand my frustrations. Like, I can see it in his face. I love him to bits, but I can see that he doesn't, like, in his soul, get how frustrating it is to have someone do more, like be more emotional than you. But like I said, I raise my voice and I'm emotional, or I'm aggressive is the one that really gets on my nerves, because it's my job to keep all the students safe. So if a student's doing something stupid, which they do often, bless their heart, across the mat, I will yell to correct that behavior. And we do it very publicly, because we're not just correcting the one person. We do it publicly so everyone kind of sees their correction and knows better. And it's not like yelling at someone. It's just like a louder voice to kind of get their attention, make sure they're safe. And I frequently get told, like, why are you yelling? Or why are you so aggressive when you talk to the students? When my male counterparts do the literal exact same thing in the literal exact same tone, and they're just being authoritative. And every time someone says that I'm yelling or aggressive, like, a little bit of me wants to just scream. And I'm like, I wouldn't have to yell if some of these boys weren't so stupid. But it's my job to keep them safe, not protect their feelings.
Yeah. I mean, Krista, I don't know if you watched any of the other shows on the line, but just last Thursday on Takis, there was a strong disagreement between myself and one of our hosts. And I was trying to make sure that we moved on because we had callers on the line. I definitely got super loud. I was like, no, 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 no. And probably sounded a little more angry than that. But oh my God, all of the comments were about how mean and awful I am and how aggressive I am and how cruel I am for shouting down this person. Meanwhile, this person is a friend of mine who doesn't feel that way at all. But like, most of the comments were just telling me how terrible and mean I am because I have like a very assertive tone. And I've always been a very assertive person. And so I definitely have had that experience multiple times where people seem to be determined to think that I am just so mean and evil when I have an assertive tone, because I'm not willing to be like passive and just let things go if something bothers me. And yeah, it's really bullshit. And I have mad respect for you for just being willing to be like, to take it on the chin, like you said, and to just like do what you know needs to be done anyway. It sucks that, we live in a world where like that seems to be like the only solution, is to just kind of like keep doing what's right and deal with the bullshit and just like hope that the next generation has it a little bit easier. But I think I have so much respect for people who are willing to show up and do that anyway, even in spite of like what flack they get for it. So definitely good on you.
Thank you. Just like I said, that's what I wanted to call in. There's something nice about talking to someone who knows that feeling.
Yeah, it's validating. At least you feel like you're not alone in that experience. And like I'm too passive for my own good. So like I don't have as much of like the like aggressive type of conflict happen, but where I see it a lot is in sexuality, obviously, because that's what I'm doing all the time. And the way that sexuality has been treated for men is just so, compared to women, is just so black and like not black and white, so polar opposite from what we have had to deal with. Like one of the things I think is so interesting is the clitoris was not mapped in its entirety until 2005 in a published paper. 2005. That's crazy. Like until the 40s, the clitoris wasn't in the Grey's Anatomy, like the medical textbook was not included until the 40s at all. And so these are people who are reading this medical book supposed to learn all about human bodies, and there's a part of it that's just like completely not included at all. And it's just like so discouraging. Even like in our healthcare system too, the way that they test for the potential of a heart attack is a test that they formed on male bodies, which is really common. And so many times women will go to the hospitals like saying that they think they're having a heart attack, but the symptoms for a heart attack are a little bit different for women than they are for men. And if whoever is treating them at that time doesn't know that and doesn't know the right symptoms for women specifically, women many times get sent home from the emergency room actively having a heart attack, being told that they're experiencing anxiety. And there's like, you can go on and on about examples like this, like even with ovarian cancer too. For the longest time, they thought that they couldn't diagnose ovarian cancer until it was stage 4, but they could. The symptoms that women were describing were similar to period symptoms. And when the women were saying, this is not my period, this is something else, they were getting dismissed and told that it was their period and that they should just like move on. That's all it is. And it was not investigated any further. And so for so many years, all these women they had literal cancer up through stage 4. And then they were able to get whatever kind of testing they needed to be able to. And like I was literally this earlier today talking about IUDs and how if anyone is not aware, the way that they insert an IUD is they use this little, I can't remember the name of it, but it's like a metal clamp that they use to pierce the bottom of the cervix and pull it down a little bit so that they can insert this like long rod that has the IUD at the end. They're literally piercing an organ inside your body and holding it there to try and shove this IUD through the cervical opening, which is really small. And when you go and have that procedure done and you ask about pain management, they tell women truly and earnestly to take 2 Advil an hour before.
I actually have personal experience with that. I had an IUD inserted and removed with no pain management whatsoever. I have also now had 4 colposcopies, each resulting in multiple biopsies, being told the procedure's not painful and you just might be a little crampy afterwards. When I can tell you, yes, that was painful. It was exceedingly painful. Like,
that's my favorite. A little pinch and cramping. You pierced my organ.
Well, and a little pinch and cramping, these are also other words that mean pain. Like a little pinch
Yeah.
is painful. Cramps are
Yeah.
painful. Like you're just using other words for pain. No thanks.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. It's like these double standards exist across the board, and I'm sorry that you have to deal with them all the time. And yeah, it's tough because in that circumstance, I really think the only thing that you can do is like hopefully leave a better impact on your students by, in whatever way you can, communicating that what you're doing and saying is actually no different than your like male counterparts that are doing exactly the same thing. And like, I think it's worth making the noise whenever this happens and drawing people's attention to it, because if you continue to do it over and over again, hopefully it'll get through to somebody and they'll be able to say like, okay, obviously this isn't a one-off, and obviously there's multiple examples, a variety of examples that are different from one another where you're being treated differently. And I give you credit for also committing to a field that is male dominated and also like has that sort of like physicality to it, because I'm sure it's more not extreme but like more prevalent in that space. I give you credit for doing it because that would drive me crazy.
Yeah. No. The best thing, sticking it out for all the years that I have, because at first I had to be a student and deal with it, and now being on the opposite side, being a coach and dealing with it, it's worth it because now I do have my very own women's class. We call it the Just Vibes class. Because it's awesome.
Love it.
The energy there is great. All the girls love that class. It's one of the highest attended classes. So I think it speaks for itself. And it's really fulfilling to get to do that. And that's the little reminders I give myself when I deal with the rest of the very vast world that it's uncomfortable for more reasons. Like I personally, you guys can know a secret that no one in my academy knows. I'm bisexual. I'm married to a dude, so that's very masking, but I'm bisexual. And they don't know that because it's also very anti-LGBT, just the whole community.
Wow.
It's extremely frustrating. So
Really?
one day,
That's so weird.
yeah, it's very unfortunate. One day I will have my own academy and everybody will be welcome and it'll be a safe place. I just have to survive where I am for now.
Yes.
That's awesome,
Yeah.
Krista. I already think all of the kids who are like under you are probably going to be growing up with such like a better model of like what women can be in that field, and that's because you're out there doing it for them. So that's really awesome.
Thank you.
I have chills right now. You can't see it, but I do, because I just really loved that. That's really sweet, and I'm so happy for you that you're finding like some power and strength and like in with the position you're in right now. And I think it's only up from here. Just sticking it out with those very emotional moments, and dang, it sucks, but I give you credit for sticking it out. That's amazing. And you're gonna be so impactful for all of those, your current students and also the ones in the future that you'll get to meet and like have this really beautiful, impactful moment with.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Krista.
Krista.
If you guys don't mind, I was just going to say one thing, totally off topic. I just started deconstructing very recently. In fact, I was looking for information on deconstructing when Chewed Gum first started, and I tried to call into the show. It was like your very first show. The call screener asked me if I was an atheist or a theist, and I had a panic attack and cried and hung up.
Oh,
and now we're how many months in? A few months in, maybe 3 months in, and I got asked that same question, and I was like, "No, I'm an atheist," and it felt really cool saying it out loud.
Awesome. Good for you, Krista.
Sweet. Chris, I have chills again.
But the show was exactly what I was looking for, like specifically because I had a lot of purity culture and a lot of being raised like that. So when I went looking and I saw this, like, oh, Chewed Gum about this, I was like, oh, that's a place for me right now. So thank you guys.
Thank you, Krista.
Thank
This
you,
is a really awesome
Krista.
call.
You're the best. Oh, I'm so happy. I'm happy that you found a safe space with
for
us
sure.
here.
Awesome.
So you guys have a great show.
Thanks,
Thank
Krista.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Oh, that was so sweet.
That was really sweet.
I loved that call so much, and I'm so happy that people feel like they can share things like that with us. And it's also like, it's always interesting because there's so many shows, even just on the line alone, that are like for people who are deconstructing or atheists and whatever. So it's nice to know that like this one specifically feels special for some people and they feel like especially represented here. That makes me really happy.
Definitely. I'm so happy we got this show off the ground because, like, I mean, commenters have been telling us since the beginning of time, and it's totally valid that like the same like 5 white dudes have been running these call-in shows for like forever. Love Matt. But you know, that is kind of like part of the problem. So it's really cool that we have these shows now where people can feel, yeah, like you said, more safe and like it's more built for them. Okay, we've got 2 more callers. What do you think about the ones we've got on the line?
Well, before we do that, we should remind people about the Patreon because we haven't done that yet.
Yes. Oh my God. You're so much more on top of announcements than I am.
Arden,
go for it. I will plug
literally,
these things in. You go for it.
I've been a Hot Mess Express this whole entire show. So, you know, I'm trying. We have to find balance in here somewhere. Anyways, okay. So you can go to patreon.com/calltheline and you can be a patron there to help support this show and the other ones on the line. So make sure that you visit. And again, if you want to do a super chat for $5 or more, we will read the super chats at the end of the show. There's lots of fun stuff on the Patreon. What I've been most excited about is Jimmy has been doing like a little podcast on there where he's been just surprise calling the hosts of the show and having really fun conversations with everyone. So if you want conversations where you can like get to know us a little bit more, that's a really fun way to do it. So check out the Patreon, patreon.com/calltheline. And thank you to all of our patrons that are already there. We appreciate you so much.
Definitely. So much fun. I love Live on the Line. All right, who we taking?
Okay, let's see. Oh boy. Oh, okay. I don't know. Either one. You pick. Because both of these are so interesting.
All right, we haven't had Spice yet tonight, so let's take Jackie. We're gonna take Jackie. Pronouns are he, him in Mississippi. Jackie, you are live on the line. What's going on?
Hello?
Talk to us.
So I'm intending on this call to make 2 points and argue for them. The first point is that in modern Western culture, I'm defining Western culture as the liberal democratic countries that were predominantly influenced by Enlightenment ideology and classical liberalism. So this would be places like America, Israel, Taiwan, Japan, and most of Europe. And I'm going to argue there is not a patriarchal system in these societies. And the second is that historically, when most patriarchal systems have developed, they were not intended to dominate women in their origin point, although that was the end result of what they did. So if there's either of those 2 points you'd like to argue with, just go ahead.
I have one quick question because the last thing you said was that when these patriarchal systems were created, it was not with the intention of dominating women, but that is ultimately what they did, which would then invalidate your point that there's no patriarchy that exists right now.
Historically. So historically, there were patriarchal societies, but in contemporary post-Enlightenment Western culture, there is not. That's not invalidating my second point. It just means that historically, the motivation for it was different than is often claimed.
Okay, I have like several objections already, but I want you to actually like make your case. So go for it.
Pick one of those 2 points. Do you want to argue about whether or not there's a current patriarchy in contemporary Western culture, or would you like to argue historically whether or not patriarchy was motivated by dominating women? Either one of those topics I'm fine.
It's your call, man. Go for it. Whatever you want to dig into. I'm not gonna make your argument for you.
I would personally argue that historically, most, not all, most patriarchal systems, particularly in Western culture, that developed were created with the intention of protecting women and not dominating women. So in certain situations, like in the Arab world and in the Islamic world, and this is true of contemporary Palestinian culture, I would say patriarchy was developed to dominate women as an extension of Islamic ideology. But Western culture, parts of East Asian culture that developed patriarchal attitudes, and Judeo-Christian culture as well as pre-Christian European societies, which had patriarchal structures, none of these were predominantly meant to dominate women. Most of these were to protect women. So the idea is that men and masculinity would be predominantly associated with protecting women from other men and from individual men themselves, and also that men would hold positions of leadership politically to also physically protect and gather resources for women. Undoubtedly, unfortunately, a negative side effect is that these restricted the rights of women massively. And fortunately, after the Enlightenment and after early liberal feminists, not Marxist feminists, but liberal feminists, truly got successful rights, and that's where we're at. But the idea that these were just this conspiracy of men who were just trying out there because they hated women, this is just nonsensical.
Okay. I think it's a bit of a straw man to say that what feminists are advocating for is that there is a conspiracy, like a cabal of men who are like, how can we oppress women the most effectively? That's clearly not what's being advocated for. Amazing how I've been talking for 3 seconds in this call, Jackie. Jackie, hold on. Holy shit. Jackie, stop. You just talked for a whole whatever, and then I said like 3 words, and you had to like immediately butt in. Like,
because immediately you put words in my mouth. I'm not saying this is what feminists claim.
You just said it's a conspiracy that, okay, restate exactly what you said. I'm going to write it down word for word.
I would say that people on radical feminists and people who hold, authoritarian, illiberal forms of feminists would say it was a patriarchal. I would say there are many liberal and more moderate-minded feminists who would not say it was just this conspiracy. So I'm more attacking radical feminism.
Okay, I still don't even think radical feminists are suggesting that there was a cabal of men who were plotting about how they could oppress women the most effectively. There were men who thought they were superior, who didn't value women's autonomy or think that they were whole people, who built systems for themselves, and that was the effect, was oppressing women. I think that's what most radical feminists are advocating for, or are implying is what our systems are the result of.
Well, first, again, I don't believe there's literally no debate as to whether or not we currently live in a patriarchy. It's obvious to anyone with more than 2 brain cells rubbed together, and that's not. Historically, though, before the 1700s, undoubtedly, women had fewer rights than men. But it's not about superiority, right? Because you also have to remember the men who would dominantly protect women from other men who would be invading armies as well as gathering resources had more. This was not a time when like most people had rights today. Like back in the day, almost anyone, regardless of they were man or woman, lived much shorter lives and much lower standard of living. And so the men would also put their lives on. It's not about superiority. It's just they viewed a proper role to be protection. It's just an unfortunate side effect is these oppressive systems.
But what, in your opinion, Jackie, what gives a man the right to decide things like that for women? Like, why is it that a man has to overreach, in my opinion, and decide how we're going to protect women and what rights we are allowed to have and not have? Why is it that men are allowed to do that?
I don't believe they had the right. I'm just saying that's not what they weren't motivated by supremacy. They didn't have the right to do what they did. It was obviously unethical, and I disagree with it. I obviously disavow what the society did. I'm just saying what the motivation was. I also believe social welfare programs are immoral, but I don't think most people who advocate for socialist welfare programs are immoral people.
That's so irrelevant to the topic. Let's not go down that rabbit hole at all.
I'm just giving an example. You can believe something is immoral and still recognize it's not motivated by supremacy.
Okay, so clarifying question. You said that you think their motivations were protecting women, correct?
That was one, and the other was also gaining resources for women and themselves, right?
Okay, so what is your evidence? Please show me like some place where it has been stated, like maybe in, like founding documents or like the Federalist Papers or something where they claimed that their goal was to protect women and gain resources for women. I would love to see that.
patriarchal structures have gone a very long time. It didn't start with America, and didn't start. Almost all societies before the 1700s, and really all societies effectively before the 1900s, were what we deem patriarchal. And so I can't give you a specific quote to that effect, but these were countries where like men were drafted into military, men predominantly held job positions to gain resources. I'm just saying the Occam's razor is these men that were toiling in the factories weren't these supremacists. They actually were motivated by a form of protectionism, and unfortunately that did lead to.
No, hold on. I need to butt in. Because Occam's razor is about having the least elements to get to your conclusion. I don't know how assuming what their motivations are when there's no evidence of it being written anywhere is at all using Occam's razor. And honestly, this feels like pedantry for the point of pedantry. When I brought up America in our founding documents, it wasn't to say that America was the start of the Enlightenment or America was the start of patriarchy. It was to find a recent historical example where we could find evidence of what you're claiming.
So you don't believe that most men had put on their lives, put their lives on the line to protect women?
As a whole? No.
Yeah, not as their main motivation. No, and I also think, Jackie, the things that I'm thinking of, like while you've been when making your point, is one of the things that obviously touches my field often is healthcare and specifically reproductive care. So to me, it feels really patriarchal to have a legal system tell a woman what she can do with her body and have.
Are you referring to abortion rights?
Yes. But even without the actual abortion itself, there are states that are making it extremely difficult to get contraceptives. So even in that circumstance too, and there's even like some health insurance that are not covering different contraceptive options. So your options are lessened, and so that feels like they're trapping women into either not having sex at all or forcing them to have babies if they do get pregnant in states where they are not teaching women, they're not teaching anyone proper sex education. And so they're not giving the education, they're not giving the contraceptives, and they're not given the care in the event that they do get pregnant and they are not able to have that child. And so in that circumstance, how are we protecting women?
So let's move things
with
on.
That.
We're talking about historically what were patriarchal societies meant to, was the intention for patriarchal societies to create women. We still don't live in a patriarchal society nowadays. If you want to argue about that, we can have that.
What I just described is patriarchal to limit resources for women.
Okay, and what I'm explaining to you is patriarchy, the way I define patriarchy, and you can argue against my definition, but let's come to a common definition. A patriarchal society is a society where the legal system and the government create laws, and in the structure of the laws, it takes away rights of women and creates more rights for men over women. Would you say that's a fair description, or do you disagree?
I mean, sorry, go ahead, Arden.
No, you can go ahead. It's fine.
I was just going to say, I don't think that there has to be proactively made laws that favor men. I think it's still, you had the first part of the definition that you gave was that there were laws that were impeding on the rights of women. And then you gave the second part that was also, there are laws that are specifically in favor of men. And I don't think that both of those are necessary for that to be a patriarchy. I think if you're suppressing somebody, you're suppressing them, whether you've created another additional system.
Well, no. So I'm saying patriarchy isn't just any society where some aspect of a legal code or some cultural elements discriminate against women. I would define patriarchy specifically. It discriminates against women because they are women, not because of X, Y, or Z. Like it's not women aren't being discriminated against because they're women. Now, if you just to get you to your example, because this is a contentious issue, and I want to approach it with sensitivity. On a philosophical and for religious reasons, I am opposed to abortion, and I do believe there should be exceptions made for the life of the mother. I believe contraception should obviously be legal. I don't care to get to the philosophical argument, but regardless, the structure that post-Enlightenment, classically liberal societies such as America were founded on, fundamentally, the laws are equal for men and women. Right? There's no laws banning men or women from specific jobs or from this, that. Now, there are certain elements within the legal system of Western culture which discriminate against women, and those elements are residues of patriarchal culture and patriarchal attitude. If you want, and I can give you some examples, but those would be a case-by-case basis.
Yeah. So, Jackie,
but just can I speak? Just to finish my point, there are also elements within the legal system which discriminate against men more than they discriminate against women. So at that point, you're not calling it the patriarchy. You're calling it a mostly liberal structure, which is structurally liberal. But within the structurally liberal society, there are some illiberal elements that can be against men or against women, depending on circumstances. Like, for example, rape laws tend to be stronger.
Jackie, I don't need 5 examples. I don't need so many examples. Like, also, this is. It's not just a platform for you to like rant on for 5 minutes. So like I think hold on. I think what it sounds to me like the core of the issue here is that you seem to have this assumption that the only way for a society to be patriarchal is if in text the laws are written with the intention of oppressing women for the sole purpose of being women. However, I think it's pretty obvious that most forms of oppression are insidious. They're not overt. They're systems that have results that overtly and vastly favor one group over the other. That's why we see so many different outcomes of, systemic racism in our country. That's why we see oppression of LGBTQ people. It's not because we're not saying that these people are oppressed because the laws specifically say gays are bad and so we're not going to let them adopt at the same rate. Obviously not. We see the outcome and make that observation, and then we can say, wow, these systems are clearly not built for all people equally, right? They're clearly favoring favoring one group over the other, and that is precisely the problem.
But the example here specifically is wrong because inequality of outcome does not mean discrimination. So, for example, there are more male mathematicians than female mathematicians. And that could be because of discrimination. That could be because of sexism or misogyny. But at the same time, that's sexism of the gaps, right? You can't just fill it in. It could be that males, due to evolutionary psychology, are more interested in mathematics to begin with. So there are some elements of inequality of outcome which can be pointed to discrimination, but discrimination isn't the only cause of inequality. There are other elements in the.
I'm not saying it's the only cause of inequality.
Nature. No, but what I'm saying is in Western culture, like I was saying earlier with rape laws, right? So in certain cases, the law discriminates, or individuals might discriminate against women. But like, for example, males are less likely to report when they're raped, especially if the females are rapists, than vice versa. So you can also say that's an example where illegal, and that could be because of discrimination, and that could be by the courts, and that could also be because of individual circumstances. I don't know. But what I'm saying is, it's not as though it's so black and white of oppressor or oppressed. It's a really simple, oversimplistic dichotomy.
Well, Jackie, there's also something like about the reported rapes that I think is interesting. Sorry, there's a dog barking in this house. Are they done? No. Okay. Hopefully, if it gets annoying, I'll stop and I'll mute myself. But I think it's calming down. No, it's not. I don't know. Okay. Anyways, I'm sorry. I'm getting like myself distracted. Okay. So what I was going to say is the patriarchy affects everyone, and it affects men as well. So men not reporting when they have experienced sexual assault, there is a patriarchy. Okay. Actually, I'm sorry. Just walk with me for a second. Okay. Just for like the sake of expressing the point. So because we have in my point, because we have this patriarchal system, men don't feel that them being sexually assaulted is as accepted because they are men and they're supposed to be like super psyched whenever anyone is wanting to have any sexual activity with them at all. And the cultural view is that men really kind of can't get raped. And so they're not reporting it because I don't think that I know it's not as culturally accepted for a man to be the victim of sexual assault. That is still part of a patriarchal worldview because you've placed this, not you specifically, but we've placed this mentality on men to say that they should always be accepting of sexual interactions, especially with women. They should always want to be able to have those interactions. Why would they ever be upset about that? So part of that is still, all of that is still part of the patriarchy. It's all related to the same system and it just is affecting men. So even in that example, that still is the patriarchy because it is this system where men are supposed to be this like set of characteristics and have this set of values of being the protector, being sexually motivated, being the physically more what's the word? I don't know. Just to be like stronger, not as easy to take down. Sorry, what was that, Arden?
As in dominating?
Yeah, dominating, exactly. So in this system where they're supposed to be physically dominating, it doesn't make sense that a man would get sexually assaulted. So it is still part of that same language in that same system. So it's interesting that you bring up that example because I actually think that it shows more of the patriarchal view than you think it does.
Well, no. I mean, so again, I'm just going to ask this simple question. Do you believe the West is structurally liberal?
Do I think the West is structurally liberal, you said?
Yes.
Compared to who?
Just in general. So, like, would you say the classical liberal ideas, the ideas of men like John Locke and the founding fathers, would you say ideas like individual rights, freedom of expression, capitalism, freedom of religious practice, these classically liberal ideas fundamentally make up the legal basis of most societies that we'd consider the West?
I guess, like in some ways, yes, but in other ways, I think that system was also built with the intention of favoring white men. So, like, yeah, like if you're a white man, yes,
you would say that.
For white men specifically, yes, because those laws were created to create those freedoms. Yeah.
Well, no, because liberalism essentially, and there are good elements, and I'm more conservative, so there are people on the right and people on the left. So I don't identify with political liberalism, but in the sense of, and there are people who are moderate on the left. But in the spectrum, generally speaking, the group of people we classify as liberals believe in individual rights. One of the characteristics of liberalism is like equality under the law. There's an idea that like because each individual has dignity unto himself, whether that's for religious or secular purposes, essentially speaking, discrimination against people for their identity is not acceptable under liberal ideology. So, I mean, to the extent that the Enlightenment ideas of people like John Locke have been accepted, that's not compatible with quote unquote patriarchy. Because patriarchy, by definition, is authoritarian, right? It's taking away rights, and if it's taking away rights and discriminating against groups of people, then that's illiberal.
I agree that is on paper what a lot of those people advocate for, but you also have to recognize that at the time when these laws were made, Black people weren't considered human. Like, they weren't considered the same level of human as white people. So I think exactly what Alyssa said, yes, they had these laws about equal application of justice under the law, but it was assuming that those would only be applied to white people equally. And Jackie, with all due respect, I know Alyssa's got stuff going on after the show. This call's been going on for like 16 minutes, so let's put a little bit of a button on this. But quite frankly, it feels to me like your notion of what feminists are advocating that patriarchy is a
atheist,
very
I'm not
cartoonish,
feminist.
I'm not saying that this is exactly what you believe. I'm saying this is my perception from this conversation with you. And like the words you've said have left me with this perception of you.
I
That
can
you
give you
have
a
this
feminist
notion of
I like.
feminism, of patriarchy, that feminists think patriarchy is something that is cartoonish, like of again, it sounds like you think that we're advocating for this notion of an evil cabal of men who are just like fucking so
Not
horny to
you, but
oppress
I have
women in the
heard
most
an
devious
idea
way
from other
possible.
people. I'm not talking about you. I
Okay,
don't know
but
what you
just
believe.
because, to be fair, I've been hearing a lot of like Jordan Peterson-esque dog whistles in your speech, and like just because you can find a person on Twitter who says something that is the most outrageous version of an idea doesn't mean that it actually represents any significant
I do
portion
like Jordan Peterson.
of a population. Yeah, I can tell. It's super
Um,
obvious.
yeah. Well, like for example, do you know who Malala Yousafzai is?
Yes.
That's an example of somebody whose feminism I would like, because in the Arab world, and especially in like Palestinian and Islamic and that type of culture, there are patriarchal societies. So in a social context where women are actively discriminated against, or men are actively discriminated, and at that point I'm a feminist. But I don't live in that world. I live in America. And I know under American law, in most situations, the laws are equal, and in some cases, there's inequality of outcome due to human nature. Like I said, with mathematicians, I do believe there are mental differences in capacity between men and women, and at times there's discrimination. But I wouldn't say it's as simple as favoring men over women. I would say gender roles are part of human nature, and some elements of gender roles can be oppressive. But the idea that it's necessarily favoring men over women, I would disagree with.
See,
But
but that's
we might
exactly the problem that I'm having with you, Jackie, is that you like I have been very involved in like radical feminism for a long time in my life, and the notion of I don't know any radical feminists who are suggesting that the reason that women are not in construction as much or mathematicians as much is solely due to sexism. I think everyone's willing to acknowledge that these are multifactorial, very complicated issues. It's just that it seems like the Jordan Peterson side, the conservative side, are so determined. Oh my God, can I finish a point? Are so determined to rule out the notion of, to make it so diminished that it is virtually non-existent, when we're saying, actually, this seems to be potentially more significant than a lot of the other factors. Not that it is the sole factor.
There are plenty of people who are liberals and on the left. There are plenty of left-wing people who don't hold silly cultural Marxist beliefs. I mean, you're conflating like this, all of it with conservatives.
Okay, Jackie, I can't hear the words cultural Marxism and continue to take you seriously right now, so we're going to let you go. Unless you have, unless you have anything you want to add to the end of this call, I think maybe this is a good time to wrap up this call.
No, I think you got it. I think, just to reiterate, I don't know any feminist who doesn't understand, or doesn't at least want to understand, the nuance in those points that you were making. But anyways, thanks for calling, Jackie. I think maybe, I don't know, maybe we'll have this call another time and
call back
have it
again.
be a little more productive, maybe.
Okay, and I can give you more examples, but we'll see if we want to continue this as further conversation.
Okay.
Yeah, we could do it another time. Thanks for calling, Jackie.
Bye, Jackie.
Bye-bye.
All right. Are you wanting to take both the remaining callers, or like what's your time schedule?
I think let's do one of these final two.
Okay, your pick.
Okay. I really would like to talk to Mike, actually. I'm really interested in this call, and I think that could be helpful to other people listening too.
Yeah. All right. So Mike in Colorado, pronouns are he, him, wants to talk about advice for dating a sex worker. Mike, you are live on the line. Go for it.
Hey, so yeah, I guess it's been 3-6 months, something along those lines, where I met this girl on a certain website where you can do sexy things with them, right? And we started just like talking about normal stuff, and like I read her autobiography and stuff, and we just kind of clicked, like in a really quick and really like exciting way. And we kind of started catching feels for each other, and like I'm pretty sure, I'm like 99% positive that she does have feelings for me because of different interactions we have. And I get that it's tricky because I'm a boyfriend and a client sometimes. So I don't know. It
So
gets tricky.
yeah. So in your interactions, are they happening only on the platform where she's also doing sex work, or have you moved off that platform at all?
We have
Okay.
occasionally. She
And
spends
sorry, go
most
ahead.
of her time. Sorry, yeah, she spends most of her time there, so it's easier and faster to get a reply there. But yeah,
Mhm.
we just we just text. We use it like a text platform almost.
Mhm. So have you ever had a conversation with her about feeling like maybe there was something more there?
Yeah, very much.
And what does she say
Yeah,
in those moments?
yeah, she agrees. Um, like this. Yeah, we started talking about that relatively quickly. Like
Mhm.
maybe a month or two in, we were like, "Hey, I kind of feel like you're more special than maybe we thought we were at the beginning. What do you think?" And she was like, "Yeah, I feel the same." And
So sorry, go ahead.
there's been times where it's hard to accept what her job is
Mhm.
because there's other guys doing the things that I want to do, but I we had like a really long, good conversation about how, hey, work is work. It looks like exactly like love, but it
Mhm.
totally isn't.
Mhm.
There's no love.
So
There's no love there.
what I it's tough because without any information from her, it's hard to really know how this interaction is actually going because many times, like, I don't know what
Yeah,
platform you're using, but I know that there are women who are on OnlyFans who are like their job is to
that's the
sell the
one.
dream that, like, you're dating a porn star, and that's part of like the whole like service that they're providing. And so even when you're having those
Hmm.
conversations with her where she's saying, all of these things that you want to hear, it could be truly like her saying the things that you want to hear. And so in an
Hmm.
effort to make you feel protected in those moments, I think it would be worth um,
Hmm.
having like a really honest and open conversation and saying like
Oh yeah,
outside of this service that you provide
yeah.
to me and to other people, is this something that you would want to pursue outside of this platform? Like if I never opened up this
Mm.
website ever again, would you still feel that same way towards me? And I think that conversation really needs to be had because it's not terribly uncommon for sex workers to have some part of their job feel emotional, because that sometimes that's something that like that their customers want. They want to have this moment of like, for this brief period of time, I'm in love with this person and she's super hot and she's in love with me too. And they're like, purposely feeding into the like selling you on the dream, like I
Right.
said. So,
Yeah, it's
so
the
I
girlfriend experience. I
yeah, the girlfriend
she
experience.
that's that's something I've encountered. It's not something I'm interested in, and it's something I told her, ahead of time. Yeah, I'm not really interested in that. It
Hmm.
wasn't until we started talking about other stuff, the normal stuff, life stuff, boring stuff. Like I
Hmm.
would daydream about her and I washing the dishes and doing laundry and shit. And I told her about that, and she was like, "Oh, fuck, you're like melting my heart and shit."
Mm.
So
That's
Yeah,
really sweet.
yeah,
I
we
I
we've
do want
had
to echo some of the sentiment that Alyssa said because, like, I did OnlyFans for like 3 years. I've been a sex worker for way longer than that. Um, and it does make me nervous about your heart here, just because I'm like I worked so hard to be super clear about boundaries with every person I work with, but I know so many girls who I would consider colleagues, who I really respect, who do engage a lot more emotionally with their their followers and their subscribers, and um I'm not trying to like downplay or like say that what you're saying isn't real. I think people can and
Yeah.
do find real feelings in places like that. But
Yeah.
especially if are you actively paying for services still, like videos and like tipping her and things like that?
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. I I definitely agree with Alyssa. I would have a really straight up conversation about how real this is for you and be like really lay it on the
Mhm.
line because I worry
I
for
wanna
your well-being because that I don't want you to go through heartbreak if you find out
yeah.
that it is a job for her and that she views this interaction as more of a transactional one and not like a
Mhm.
genuinely emotionally reciprocal one.
Yeah, I thank
Yeah.
you both so much for your concern. We've had conversations like that, and we do both agree that it's more than that. I don't. There's 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 not a. How do I put it? Like her personality is just the type where it's hard for her to be deceptive or duplicitous. She's just an honest person. It's really hard for her to lie.
Mhm.
So I kind of believe her when she says, "Yeah, I have
I
feelings for
think
you. Yeah, you're kind of the only one." I know that
mhm,
the fact that I'm also a client, um, that's going to complicate things, and so maybe it's well, not maybe it's definitely worth it to have like more. Um, what's the word? What's the word for a deeper conversation as far as
mhm,
money in the relationship goes, and like
mhm.
would there, hmm,
I think
if the long
if
distance
she
relationship is the main. Sorry.
I think if you're still paying for services with her, I'm really skeptical that she's being ethical in this
Yeah.
because
Hmm.
if she really feels like this is going to be like a relationship, something that she wants to pursue more seriously, like talking about having a long-term relationship, she wouldn't continue to take money from you like that. That's my
Hmm.
thought. And everybody is different, but I that raises a lot of flags for me. And I think that alone, even like I want you to be more skeptical of that alone.
Yeah.
Sure.
And
Me as
Okay.
well.
I have the little like YouTube chat up and because I'm curious if anyone else has had experiences like this. And I saw someone say, like if you're
Let it
paying for the
come.
experience, you're paying for the experience, and that's what she's giving you. And so, like in her
That's not.
perception, she might just be giving you the experience that you're paying for and feeding into like that language. And I mean, we're not in those conversations, so we don't know. But I am really skeptical of her continuing to take money from you if there is like a different intention.
Um, I I would be more skeptical of that if it weren't for. Oh, I forgot. Um, can you kind of cue me up again what you had just said?
I was saying that I would want you to be more skeptical if she is still accepting money from you, like she still is wanting to. If she's
Yes, yes.
telling you that she's easiest to get a hold of on a platform where you have to pay for her attention, that feels
Hmm.
like
Huge red
you're
flag.
just a client. Yeah, you're a client to her, and she's
Sure.
selling you on the experience, and that experience, like in
Mm, I'm not.
with all of
It's not.
it's possible that she's just a really great actress. And that's what I'm worried about for
Sure.
you.
Sure. Thank you. And I want to kind of push back on that because the complicating factor, I should say, is that it's a long distance relationship. We live in different states,
Mhm.
so it's actually more convenient to use the website. But
But
no,
texting
I see
works,
what you
like
mean.
texting,
Yeah.
calling,
That is also true. I
FaceTime, like
forgot.
yeah,
Yeah.
like I talk to somebody long distance
Okay.
too,
Okay.
and like it's FaceTime, it's text, it's we don't need an additional like service, and I would feel really
Mhm.
weird if he asked me to use an additional service to and was charging me for that. I'd be like, well, something seems to be amiss.
Yeah.
I think her accepting payment from you feels like that might be a little bit of our answer there. And I think if you were to stop paying her and you didn't hear from her because you stopped paying her, that would be the answer. I think you should, because I really want you to protect your heart and protect your feelings in all of this, I think you should discontinue your subscription for just a couple of weeks and see if she finds any other way to get in touch with you. Like, if you don't reach out to her because you've discontinued your subscription and she does not reach out to you in any way, shape, or form, then this was purely for, you are a client to her. And you might be a special one, and she might actually have like an emotional connection with you, but at the end of the day, her boundary is you are the client. And you could potentially have that conversation with her, but I don't know how ethical, like, I don't know where she lies ethically in that. And she might just continue to perpetuate, no, this is special, no, this is special, because ultimately she's getting paid to do that.
Right.
So I think it's worth investigating. If you are really considering this, it's worth a little bit of investigation, because you'll be able to find out very quickly. If you really want an answer, you'll be able to find it very quickly. If you want an echo chamber of people agreeing with you, then, I don't think Arden and I are going to do that, because it's more of a priority that this is an ethical interaction that you're experiencing.
Yeah, I think Alyssa's spot on, Mike. I highly encourage you to
Mm-hmm.
cancel your subscription and to wait a week, or message her on any other platform that you've ever contacted her on, and see the regularity of the responses and the quality of the responses. Because I'm really not trying to like burst your bubble or break your heart. And like Alyssa said, we don't know. We don't see the other side of these interactions. But I have seen this is honestly my biggest gripe with OnlyFans, is the parasocial aspect of it is so deeply manipulative. And I really wish it were more about just selling content to people who are interested. But unfortunately, the parasocial thing has become the primary service that people are paying for. And it has become what OnlyFans creators are like kind of specialized in. And so this just makes me so nervous for you, man. I'm like,
I get that that's 99% of creators on there, and I do steer clear of that type of thing in general. It's like, how do I put it? Like, the more I learned about her life, the more I felt like it was kind of like my life. We had very similar lives in terms of different types of parental issues and traumas, things like that. And it was like we really just liked each other's company. But yeah, I hear you very loud.
And all of that could still be true.
Use a different.
All of that could,
maybe use a different.
Yeah, all of that
platform.
could still be true. And you could be actually connecting with this other human being on, in this other state, and you could actually be having an authentic connection with her. But I don't know, when it comes down to doing something like a relationship, especially a long distance one, that requires a lot of open communication and honesty and a commitment. Like, you are committed to having conversations in a way that's really different than if you could just go down the block and see your partner. Like, that's a different commitment. And if you're walking into a commitment like that, like, you sure as hell should be talking to me on a platform that I don't have to pay for at a minimum. And I don't want you to go through this experience thinking that you're the exception when you could very well be the rule here.
Yeah, I don't pay to talk to her just to get new content. I mean, the point stands, so I should stop arguing.
Yeah, I mean, Mike, I even will tell you, like, when I was actively using OnlyFans, I was always super, like, just to let you know what this relationship is, I would always make those messages regularly, because people would regularly start to think that there was more between us than there was. And so I felt like compelled to regularly remind people of the reality of the situation. But the majority of the people who message me on OnlyFans, like, the people who subscribed, who just wanted the content, wouldn't really message me. But the people who messaged me were looking for company. They weren't looking for nudes or for sexting. They wanted to have a conversation with a girl that they were into and to feel like I knew them personally. And I don't think there's anything wrong with having a service like that or even paying for a service like that as long as you're aware of what's going on. But yeah, I just, oh man, this makes me so scared.
I would test the waters a little bit, Mike, and just see if you can, if you don't subscribe or don't pay for the service for a little while, see what happens. Because if this is authentic, then you'll be able to know, and really try your best to be really honest with yourself and what you're looking for in a relationship. Like, is this going to be a person who can fulfill what you're looking for in a relationship, you know, the way that it's going right now?
Like when you mentioned that, you know, hey, you need to try doing, you know, cutting off the contact on the paid platform. I was like, shit, can I actually do that? Because, yeah, the addiction is talking to this person. So,
yeah.
No, I hear you very loud and clear. I'm going to make every effort to stop it on that thing.
Yeah, let us keep us updated on how it goes. Like, you can call back and keep us updated. And I would also encourage you, if you don't already, to have maybe like a therapist who can give you support, especially somebody who's a sex therapist, because they'll have some extra training on like these types of relationships and whatever. And so they'll have they'll have extra support for you and something like that. And so if you feel like you want a little bit of this type of conversation with someone who can like dive in deep with you whenever you want to talk to them, then I would encourage you doing that, because a little extra support will go a long way, especially if we're, you know, suggesting that you try and avoid having conversations through the subscription platform. And it's like, oh God, I don't know if I could do that. Extra support will never do you wrong. So I would suggest seeing if you can find a sex therapist in your area and see if they can help you decipher that relationship. And you don't have to talk about like sex specifically with them, but they'll be able to have a little more background and information on those types of relationships.
I mean, I've got a therapist I kind of went through a rigmarole with work to get, you know, one that they'll approve of for the you know, employee assistance program. You specialize in addiction or compulsive behavior. Yeah, maybe it I don't know. I'll keep talking with him because I like him so far. But you're saying
then keep talking to him.
Sex or
keep talking to him.
relationships? I don't know.
So one of the things to note between the way that a sex therapist is trained and a regular therapist is trained, specifically ones who are trained in an addiction model, therapists are trained with sex addiction treated in the same model as other addictions. So now the American Association for Sexuality Educators, Counselors, and Trainers, or therapists, ASECT is the name in short. They, I think it was in 2017, they no longer are diagnosing people with sex addictions. I'm not saying that's what you have, but they no longer diagnose people with sex addictions, because when you have an addiction to something that is relationship or sex related, it more likely is something outside of addiction, the way that we treat it normally. So it might be, maybe you have a need to look for validation in other people or whatever it is. When you're able to work with somebody who's trained in those relationships, they'll be able to dig a little deeper than saying you have a sex addiction or a whatever relationship addiction and go through the traditional addiction model. And people are more successful without in sexual compulsive behaviors. They're more successful in a non-addiction model treatment. So that, I think you should stick with your therapist for a little while, but if you find that he's slipping into addiction model language, maybe consider a sex therapist, because they'll treat it a little differently and dig a little deeper. But But yeah, I think I'm glad you called because I feel
too.
like we needed to have this little powwow and be support for you. And I hope that you follow through on all of these things and let us know how it goes.
No, I appreciate it very much. Like this is like an infinitely valuable resource for the non-believer community. I thank you all so much.
Thank you for
Thank
calling
you,
in, Mike.
Mike. Have a good
Yeah.
rest of your night.
You too. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Bye.
Man, oh, my heart is.
I know.
Ugh. I pulled back
That's
from a
tough.
lot of the work I was doing early in January just because honestly, like the burden of having like so many people have a parasocial connection to you and expectations of you that are just like not attached to reality just weighs so heavy on me. I just can't tolerate the
Yeah, it's
distress
tough.
of it. Yeah.
Parasocial relationships in general are just so interesting, and it's interesting because I feel like it's so part of like the conversation of the internet right now, and still they happen so often that it's interesting how often they continue to happen, and we know that parasocial relationships are a thing and that they're not healthy, and yet they just continue.
Yeah. Luckily, I saw someone in chat mention like, "Oh, it feels like we know Alyssa and Arden, but we really probably don't." And it's like, honestly, like I come very authentically here, but there's so many
Mhm.
parts of myself that I don't bring to these shows because it's not necessary, it's not your business, and things like that. And it's like it's really
Mhm.
good to remind yourself that, you don't really know the people you see on these shows. And
Yeah.
I know Matt gets exhausted all the time when people message him and kind of make so many assumptions about because they've watched him for 20 years and they're like, "Oh, I just kind of thought we were friends. I forgot we weren't." And it's like,
Mm.
it's so hard to
Yeah.
avoid that.
It's tough. And at the same time, like I appreciate people who want to like follow along with one individual person's like journey and all of the projects that they do. Like it's huge to me when I feel like I've seen someone who followed along with me from like the circle and through everything that I've done now and like watch this show now. Like that's huge and I appreciate it so much. And at the same time, there's a boundary there where it's like even like at no point has any person on the internet seen like every facet of who I am, I have friends who
Yeah.
probably haven't seen every facet of who I am. So,
Right.
it gets a little spooky when people get a little too close like that, but
Yeah. Okay, so we have officially gotten through our calls and we're going to move on to super chat. So
woohoo.
if you want to send us a super chat of $5 or more, we're going to read them live starting right now.
Okay. $5 from the Raven 200. Be sure to consensually grab that like button firmly and give it a nice, hard, satisfying slap on its peachy derriere. Make the like button moan.
Oh my gosh, I'm blushing,
Well
Raven. Holy
done.
crap.
That's awesome. Thank you. It's really funny.
Yeah, thanks, Raven. We've got $5 from SJL. I thought an alternative to the hashtag don't apologize to him, don't ever apologize to him, but one, that is an absolute, and two, the acronym may be problematic. Death, hashtag death.
I
Yeah, a little
actually kind of
bit.
like the acronym. I like the acronym more. I think that's funny. Hashtag death. I love that. $10 from Daniel Rowe. I don't know if the message is bless or if his name is Daniel Robless, but
I
either
think it's
way.
Robless. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for the support. I appreciate it.
We've got another $5 from Skeptoidius. The clitoris has over 10,000 nerve endings, and it's still not as sensitive as a man who had a woman choose a bear over him.
Okay, also, can I just like have a little bit of a nerd moment here? So that where we got the over 10,000 nerve endings thing was based on they studied a pig's clitoris, and that's where they got that information from. Isn't that crazy?
Why?
So we don't actually know if a woman's clitoris has like it has tens of thousands, but we don't actually know the exact number anymore like we thought we did. Because for the longest time we were just using this piece of information. But anyways, that was very funny.
So wild how information like that will get circulated and just kind of adopted as fact and people don't even realize it. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, $5 from Monkey at Typewriter. Hi, Will. I feel like a lot of the women equals emotional, men equals logical argument is the same anti-logic deflector shield that theists use to feel reasonable. Yeah, I think it's all part of the same little machine that they're running together.
Definitely. Like a intense coping mechanism.
Yeah.
We've got $10 from Jessica Lynn. Hey, Arden. I just want to let you know that at 62, I have finally got the ball rolling on bottom surgery. Oh my God, congrats. That's so exciting. Thank you for being understanding and helping me back on tack a few months ago. Happy Pride. Congrats. I'm so
Aw.
glad we were able to help.
Congrats,
that's,
Jessica. Happy Pride.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
happy
so
Pride.
exciting.
It is a lot of work to get the ball rolling, so good on you.
$5 from the Raven 200. Also, this is so funny. Also, Jimmy, go take a Blood Demon art Exploding Blood by Nezuko Kamado, followed by A Peonies of Futility by Kanao. How do you say that? Tsuyuri?
Tsuyuri?
Tsuyuri? Happy Pride. Thank you.
I don't even know. I don't think that's wrestling. Is that anime, Raven? I don't know that anime, and I'm a total
I have
weeb,
no idea. You're asking the wrong girl. I don't know. But thank you.
$4.99 from Heather Hatch. You both have given me the courage to give my first super chat ever. Thank you for everything. Aw, thank you so much.
$5 from Monkey at Typewriter. Jackie, I do like Jordan Peterson, bro. We all know. Everyone who speaks to you for more than 3 minutes knows the kids are alt-right.
Oh. Yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it does make me feel like I am like super powered when I'm like, well, I can tell you like Jordan Peterson, and then he's like, I do.
Yeah, and they're like, I do. And you're like,
called it.
I know.
$5 from Carissa Grimm. Thanks for letting me vent, and thank you for creating a space for women to be seen in the atheist online world. I'm so glad you called in, Carissa. I'm so glad the show is doing what it's supposed to do. It's so awesome.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm sorry you deal with all of that crap, but I'm glad there's people like you in that space because you're a badass bitch and you're going to give so many other like kids in your classroom the space to be like everything that they want to be in their lives. So thank you, Carissa.
Absolutely.
$4.99 from QA. Colin one. Sometimes I wonder if people who believe in God have a parasocial relationship with themselves. That's so interesting. I'm gonna be sitting in the shower later, just thinking about relationships with themselves. That's
kind of onto something, though.
Yeah. That's gonna wake me up in the middle of the night thinking about that.
Oh my God. Yeah. $5 from William Mattis. William, can you let me know how to pronounce your last name correctly? Because you've been commenting for ages, and I feel like every time I still have hesitation with how to pronounce your name. But because it's too damn hot for maturity. Fair. It's actually cool in Texas today. Well, cool for Texas, which is like hot for everywhere else in the world. But, it's a little rainy.
What temperature is it?
I think it was just under 90. Let's see what it's
Oh my God, that's cool.
For Texas, it's like the sigh of relief is when it hits 90. You're like, oh my God, finally it's not 105.
Arden, I could never.
I will take it over winters any day. I hated the cold so much.
No, I would take winter any day over 100 degrees. In 100 degrees, I am a puddle in pigtails. I'm not going anywhere.
I mean, to be fair, I don't go anywhere most of the time anyway, so doesn't change my life.
Understood. $5 from Jake B. Now I don't have anything to listen to tomorrow because I caught you live for once. Oh, I'm sorry, and I'm happy that you were able to watch us live this time around.
Sorry, I realized I got behind on super chats. Let me add these in. Like 3 or 4 came in all at once, so I was like, oh gosh, gotta catch up.
Thanks, y'all.
I know.
That's
We've
nice.
got $10. Wait, is this me or you?
That's you.
Okay, $10 from Von Rek. Keep up the good work. Thank you so much, Von Rek.
Thank you.
We're trying.
5 pounds. Pounds? Euros.
Euros.
Why am I so bad at this? I'm so bad at that. Anyway, from Johnny Luca Rogers. Sorry I missed this one, but I'll be sure to watch it later. Lots of love from Brussels. Thank you, Johnny.
Yes, thank you so much. We have $9.99 from Captain Zero. Thanks to you, Arden and Alyssa, for what you do. Alyssa, I just signed up for a consultation on your site. I'm so looking forward to it. Oh, yay!
Oh, I'm so excited. I can't wait to talk to you.
Awesome.
That's awesome. Oh, I just got the email.
Nice.
Yay! $19.99 from Prozac. The female orgasm is a myth. I'm on a quest like the Holy Grail. One day I will find it. Well, it's not a myth, and it is super achievable, and I can help you find it. That sounds presumptuous, but I can help you in a professional way. Anyway, thank you, Zach.
$4.99 from Jason. Also butts, because I'm too lazy for originality.
I love that. Thank you. $5 from Alyssa regarding clit. What? 10,000? There's no way that can be right. A man, probably. Well, also, I wish I had my diagrams, like my vulva pillow and I have like a vulva and clitoris diagram too. I wish I had it with me so I could show you. The clitoris is actually like a huge structure, and it goes like behind the back of the vulva too. So it's actually like a really big structure, and the tip is like, I would say, 1/6 of what the whole size of it is, and there's so much more there. But you're right, a man probably.
Matt loves to watch, I don't know if you've ever seen 8 out of 10 Cats Does Countdown. It's like it's like the comedy version of one of their like daily game shows. And one of the hosts was mentioning that, like the clitoris is actually 10 centimeters long. And it was like a running bit for the rest of the show that they're like, Rachel's clitoris is 10 centimeters long. Everyone was laughing at her for it. But it's true.
Funny.
$5 from Monkey at Typewriter. Chewed gum is my favorite, the line production. I just want y'all to know the men who care about feminism also deeply appreciate this space. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Will.
It's been like a weird balance when I'm doing like clips from this show and shorts where a significant portion of our audience is kind of like haters a little bit. And so I'm trying to find the way to be like honest and respectful of what we're doing here, but also to like convince them to watch, because it's hard to get them to watch Takis. I kind of have like, it's so hard to get anyone to care about trans stuff, but like at least with this show we're having like a little bit more momentum, and so I'm trying to keep it flowing and trying to like learn from the things that do well and try to get better. So thank you for supporting, because it's nice when the men aren't willing to watch someone that's not just another man. Okay, that was the last super chat. So, yeah, thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you for watching, everyone. It's been a fun time, as it always is, and I appreciate everyone being so supportive. Don't forget to check out the Patreon, and come back here again next Tuesday. And I think that's all I got for you today. I wish I had something more interesting. I should start giving you guys all things to look into. Oh my God. You know what I read today? This will be my closing note. I read today that the rate of STDs is like astronomically high. And I just want to let everyone know that the most common STD symptom is no symptoms. So you should always get routinely checked if you're having sex with multiple partners, because you just never know. And sometimes these STDs can be, you can have symptoms that you actually can't cure and can be like life-threatening down the road. So anyways, make sure that you get tested, because the rates of STDs are absolutely astronomical. And that's my closing note. That's like when, which was the guy who did Jeopardy? Who would be like, have a great night, get your pets neutered. And like, that was his closing statement. Mine is going to be get tested and don't apologize to him.
Love that. Oh, wow. starting at full volume. Okay.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you to our mods and our Patreon peeps, our producers and our screeners, everybody. We appreciate you all so much. We'll see you next week.
Bye, everyone. I see 999 from Jamnik. Thank you. I'm sorry we didn't get to it. It happened right as we hit the credits. But yeah. See you, everyone.